relationships, philosophy, relationships, travel, philosophy.
Melissa, you wrote the book, The People You Meet. I'd love to ask you about that. It's available on Amazon for our listeners, and we'll add the links in as well so everyone can access that. And that grew out of you sending long emails to family and friends about your travels. When you were writing those emails, did you think initially, oh, this could bring this together and it could inspire a book? Or was it, how did it come about, the book, from those emails?
So the reason those started was I was with a partner who worked in luxury travel. And when you are on a multi-month trip with someone who has a purpose, so he was not every day, but frequently meeting with tour operators and people in luxury hotels to create future business. When you are the plus one I was 35, it's very different than being the one who's on a mission. And I got a little bit restless in my head. And that's where I discovered that I needed a purpose. So I would be sitting on long trains and buses, sometimes like 36 hours. And I started creating these stories in my head about what we were seeing and doing and where we were going. And that became my job in itself. So once a week, this was like 2010, we didn't have cell phones. So I was going to internet cafes and I would send these emails home to friends and family, and they really liked them and they sent them to their friends and family. So I had very good feedback there. And when I left the trip, there was a part of me that thought I probably have enough material for a book, but it took me 15 years to decide if I wanted to do it. It's pretty revealing when you write a book like that. And yeah, so I was in and out of it, and then I just decided to go for it, and here we are.
Fantastic. Did it ever, did you know that you wanted to write a book prior to that? I feel like a lot of people say, oh, I've got everyone's got a book in them. A lot of people think one day I'd like to write a book. Prior to that, was that ever on your radar?
I remember saying as a little girl that one day I would write a book, but I did not think about that at all on that trip. So, I mean, I've always been pretty good with writing, and writing is a big part of who I am, but I had no intentions before I started that trip about writing a book at all.
Yeah. In regards to traveling as a couple, we're obviously traveling together, and in fact, our very first international trip together was to Mexico for a month, which is, I think, pretty different how far.
It was, yeah.
Well, how did you find traveling as part of the couple? What was the easiest part? What was the hardest part of traveling as a couple?
I think there's a lot of pros and cons. So the parts that I love are it's very nice to be with someone who has your back. And as a woman, it's a very different experience to have a man with you. I've done many trips on my own, and it's very different. So that part I really like. And it's fun to share big experiences with somebody. I mean, um, yeah, doing certain things completely alone is really not the same. So I love all the sharing of that and the planning, and being able to put your backpack down so you can run to the bathroom is very, very nice when you're with somebody. I think the downsides, and you can tell me if this is your experience, is that socially, to me, it can feel very isolating. So I think you can get stuck in a bit of a cocoon when you're with one person all the time, and you kind of are not always as approachable to other people, and some people don't even bother talking to you because you appear as a unit. So that part for me was always very challenging, and I sometimes felt very cut off. And I've done a lot of group trips, like adventure travel trips where you show up alone with a bunch of strangers, and I really like those. And sometimes I found on that multi-month journey I would see those groups of people, and I would actually like long for that, like just that camaraderie and the big group dynamics of like 10 people and just meeting fellow travelers. So but it can go both ways. I mean, I think both have their merits and both have their downfalls, like anything else you do in life, for sure. What about you guys?
Yeah, I definitely agree with the positive of like having a partner there, and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
as a woman feeling, I suppose, although I traveled a lot on my own, I never felt unsafe, but I think that was probably more naivety than It's many years ago, so I think having you there feels very safe and very nice.
Yeah, and on the flip side, similar to what you're saying, something that we've noticed, because we do enjoy so many of the same experiences, is and we got together just under 5 years ago, so we're in our 30s now, and we live very independent lives. But once we've come together and done all these things together, we laugh because we've become quite codependent now. And it feels bizarre to even think of that because we were so independent and individually achieved so much. But that codependency, there are times we like, oh, just wait for her, like when she's ready. I don't want to go down and speak to him. I don't want to go to the shop. And it's like, what are you talking like? And then he catches up like, I can go to a shop. Fine. I mean, it's that codependence. You've got to catch yourself. Oh, I know that's let me get down.
Yes, I that's so funny. I had moments like that too. I remember at one point, like even starting to ask my partner, like, "Do you think I should wear this today?" I was like, "I never do that." But yeah, you do. You become like one person, right? And there's some beautiful things about that, and then there's some like, uh-oh moments as well.
And in your book as well, I was keen, was there any, so I know you met many, many, many characters and you travels as you do, even those short moments, some but is there a character or two that you just always comes to mind? Maybe a funny character, maybe a memorable character, maybe for the wrong reasons. Be a character. I would love the people to know about them.
There's two women that always come to mind from this book. So one of them was 70 years old. We were in Laos, in northern Laos, and we had kind of developed this little group of people. There were probably six of us, I think, that had come together and were traveling together for a week or two. And this woman just came out of nowhere in one of these little villages. She was from Israel and she was like just wild. And she had this like wonderful hair and she was tall and lanky and just like she was just a character right from the get-go. And I just really admired her because she had been traveling alone at 70 years of age as a woman through China, through India, and now through all these countries. And but she was just like could never tell what was going to come out of her mouth. So I will never forget her. And if you read my book, you'll know why. But the person that really is the most memorable is a woman who I met. She was in her 50s and she taught me the lesson of knowing when it's time to go home. So she had done everything. This woman was so well traveled and had a very adventurous life. And I was with her in Laos and she was looking at these two women who were like 25, maybe, these backpackers. And she was kind of studying them. And then she looked at me and she said, they need to go home. Their trip should be over now. And I was like, what? I had no idea what she was talking about. So we had this amazing conversation about knowing when you've seen and done too much and that it's no longer, you should no longer be there. Like, and it was just so life-changing for me because at the 4-month mark when I was in China, it happened to me where I was like, this has become a job. I'm not happy. I'm not enjoying this. I don't care about seeing anything anymore. I'm really, really done. And I was just missing like everything about normalcy and normal life. And I wasn't in a position where I could just go hang out somewhere for a month and rejoin my partner. And I think that's really changed how I travel now because I know I'm very prone to travel fatigue. And I think it's really not even fair to the country you're in if you're miserable and you don't want to be there. Like, we're human and there's a lot of travel judgment and travel ego on the road. And I think that you have to listen to when you're ready to go and you have to honor that and respect it and to be okay with it. And so that is a lesson that I will never forget.
That's really insightful, and I think that's something that's not spoken about often, like travel fatigue. I think people just think, "Oh, you should travel, travel, keep going, keep going."
Yeah,
And
there's a lot of pressure.
yeah, I think a lot of people will just say, "Well, now I've planned to travel for this amount of time, so that's what I'm going to do." And you need to listen to yourself and listen to your environment. And like you say, it's
Mhm.
almost like a disrespect to the country if you're just there. And
Yeah, you're there and you're miserable. I mean, I think there's a lot of I certainly in the backpacking world, I know there's a lot of competition where people will be like, I've been on the road longer, I have more stamps, I've done this, I've done that. And I really hate those conversations because, again, we're like leading our own journey here, and I'm not you, you're not me, and it's just as long as you're not hurting anybody and you're out there for the right reasons, nobody should really have any comments on anyone else's travels, but it's just it's so silly all that stuff. But yeah, there's a time to end it for sure.